Let's talk about the dream gap. What's that? It's the gap that comes between girls and their full potential. You see, starting at age 5, girls stop believing they can be presidents, scientists, astronauts, big thinkers, engineers, CEOs, and the list goes on. Why? Because what else are we going to believe when by age 7 we're more likely to think that boys are smarter than us? That's ridiculous. When we are 3 times less likely to be given a science-related toy, that's sad. And when our parents are twice as likely to Google, is my son gifted? Then is my daughter gifted? That's not cool. We need to see brilliant women being brilliant and see how they got to where they are. To imagine ourselves doing what they do. But we can't do it alone. Moms, dads, brothers, and bosses. We need all of you to help. We need to close the dream gap. It's up to all of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Donaldson, and I am the chair of the Information Technology Department here at SUNY Erie. We are excited to welcome you to this portion of our Speak IT series that is sponsored by our IT Advisory Board and the faculty and staff of our department. We recognize that March is Women's History Month, and we wanted to bring together some brilliant women in business to discuss how we can close this dream gap for little girls and young women who are following behind us. Our panel of women today have been on this path to becoming brilliant for many years, and I am excited to share this time with them. Let's go ahead and do our introductions of our panelists. Today we have with us Dr. Adyam Sagai, who is our newly appointed SUNY Erie president. She will be bringing greetings from the university. We have Catherine Aiken, again, newly appointed Dean of Engineering and Technologies. We have Sheila Halloran, who is an instructor in the Information Technology Department here at SUNY Erie. We have Ayantu Osman, who is an application developer at M&T Bank. And we also have Colleen Ogans, please forgive me if I said that wrong, who is an assistant professor in the Business Administration Department here at SUNY Erie. I don't know about you, but I am excited to be a part of what is going to be happening here today. So just a few ground rules. Please put something in the chat. If you have any questions while our forum is going on, please put something in the chat or raise your hand so that we can answer your questions. Again, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions following this presentation, please make sure you reach out to me at donaldson@ecc.edu. Our next Speak IT session is scheduled for, or tentatively scheduled for, Wednesday, April the 10th. There will be communication that will be coming out for that, that Speak IT series as well. So at this time, I am going to ask our president, Dr. Adyam Sagai, if she can bring greetings from the university. I'm sorry, from our college.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor Donaldson, for this wonderful event and putting this together for all of our community. So thank you so much. On behalf of the college, I would like to welcome everyone to this incredible, amazing event and discussion that we're going to be having this afternoon. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and start with just some questions. So we do have some pre-questions planned, but there might be some questions that might come up while we are having our discussion. So our first question that we have is, what was your dream job as a child growing up? What was your dream job as a child growing up? Dr. Sagai, I'll start with you.
Sure, sure. I think for me, I don't know that when I was a child, I had a dream job per se, but what I did know as a child is that I loved working with people. I love being part of a community. So that I knew early that was one of the things that I loved and enjoyed. The other thing that I remember is being in a situation where solving problems were something that I enjoyed. A lot younger when I was younger. So that it was probably what I remember as a child.
Awesome, great. Colleen, how about you?
Let's see. I had a lot of dreams and dream jobs as a child. I was all over the place. It started from, as most kids do, selling lemonades, lemonade in front of their house, lemonade stands. I begged my parents to let me do one every weekend. You've done enough. I think our neighbors are getting sick of this. I drew my own comic books and I tried to sell them to my neighbors. I don't know. I had some business acumen, I guess, if you can call it that, growing up a little bit. And then once I got a little bit older, I got it in my head that I wanted to be a stockbroker. And I'll tell you why. The reason was, for some reason, it seemed to me that stockbrokers were all men. And I said, I want to do that. I want to do, something that seems like a male dominated field. That looks interesting to me. And I wish I could tell you that that's what I ended up doing. I did go to college for business administration, sort of wasn't sure the route I wanted to go in, as most students do. And I fell in love with athletics, and I played a Division I sport in college, and kind of followed that path. And I think that, all the dreams I had when I was a kid, it all went that route, so there's never one set path. And I started out my career working in marketing in the front office for another Division I college team, and kind of went from there. Yeah, I never looked back. I think I'm happy with all of my choices.
Awesome. So I do know that some of us can't stay the length of the panel, but I know, Dr. Sky, you have another meeting that you have to go to, but I do want to ask you one more question before you get off the call. What would you tell young women who are just starting to work? What would you like for them to know as being a woman in this business that we are in?
Absolutely.
Whatever realm that you're in.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a wonderful question, Professor Donaldson. I think what I would say is be confident in who you are. Be confident in you being a young woman or a woman, that your intuition and what you know really matters, and being different matters. So I would say being confident in who you are. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Kathy, same question. What would you tell young women who are just starting out?
Become a continuous learner. Any opportunity you have to develop your skills, take courses, attend workshops, stay informed about any developments in your industry or in your community, whatever you can do to just constantly embrace opportunities to learn. I would highly recommend that for somebody starting out or anybody who's just switching careers. Just be a lifelong learner.
Awesome. I remember I was in your office and I saw on top of your bookcase, you have many degrees up there. So I understand what you say when you say be a lifelong learner. So just tell me, how did you, I know you, previous to coming to Erie Community College, you were at the University at Buffalo. So your story of being that lifelong learner, how did that begin?
So when my father sat me down to have the talk about college, I thought it was going to be engineering. We had a lot of engineers in our family. And he said, take that which interests you. The job will figure its way out, but study what interests you. And I took that to heart, I guess, because I took classes. One of my favorite ones to this day is still the ocean world, understanding how waves are made. And every day that I'm, if I go on vacation, I'm in the ocean, I remember how waves are made and circular and things like that. And that's the path that keeps you the happiest, right? That you're doing that which you enjoy the most. And so for me, I just took classes, and then you have to declare a degree, and it's like, okay, I'll try this, and then no, that's not really me. And so I got a degree in history because I loved history. Growing up in Western New York, there is a huge amount of history, religious history, ethnic history, like it's just deep with that. So that's what I took. And then I found out I was only a couple credits away from getting another degree. So I was like, heck, why not? And then when it was time to do higher education and get in, at that point, the university had hired me. And I'm like, well, I should probably get a master's in something. What interests me? And so I got a master's. And as I moved positions, I felt it was very important to get more understanding about the area that I was in. So working in higher education, I thought it was important to get more experience and understand higher education as a business, as an industry.
Mhm.
And while I was there, I met somebody, and at the same time, information became huge, right? The internet, the Googles of the world, like everything's at your fingertips. No more going to the library to look at an encyclopedia to write your papers. Everything's at your fingertips. But how do you manage information? How do you manage information overload? So I had met people who were getting dual degrees in information library sciences while getting their higher ed degree. So I was like, I love information and how to manage information. So I did that. Then I went to athletics and said I should learn about managing athletics. So there's another, right? So each time, even though I was still in a higher education setting, it changed. And so I call them adjacent careers and adjacent learning experiences. And then at some point, probably should just get that MBA in technology management. And so, yeah, so I have 5 masters and 2 bachelors. But again, none of them were truly set out for a degree. It was, what can I learn or do to understand where I am and what I can do to be better skilled at what I'm doing.
Nice. So always be a life learner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always be a life learner.
Yep, and I've passed it on to my children, who both of them surprisingly are history buffs, which I didn't think that would rub off. But through sports, we're a very athletic family. It was the same thing, wanting to be with people, being around people, learning a new sport. What can you learn now? What new challenges are out there? I gave up my softball cleats, and now I have golf clubs. You just learn and like the challenges. So I think you don't put that. And by the way, kudos on that video. That's the first time I've seen it in its entirety. Love the video. Dream about something, challenge yourself day to day. Don't limit yourself. And a lot of that comes through knowledge, just understanding and just learning.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ayantu, what motivates you every day?
What motivates me every day is, I want to say, to be better than the day prior. I want to talk about privilege. I feel like we all have a level of privilege that we need to acknowledge, and privilege can be as small as, for me, I got to grow up in the States, and that's a privilege because I got to go to school. I'm the youngest out of 12 kids, and I'm the only one that had access to an education. So I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity that I have. So that's always been my motivation. I want to do better than the day before. And also being the first in my family in certain spaces, why wouldn't I want to take advantage of every opportunity and seize the moment?
Nice. Very nice. Sheila, how about you? What motivates you?
I like helping people. So, and everything else that has been mentioned, I love learning something new every day. I love being with students. There's a lot I learned from them. Looking back at the roles I've had at New Era, they've all been roles that worked with people and helped people in a change management type of capacity. When New Era implemented the internal audit department and I started internal audit, being able to make sure people understood it wasn't an adversarial role, but I was here to help you. How can we improve your processes? What can we do better? From there, we started the project, or I started the project management office. So how do we work through projects, get them done quicker, get them done more efficiently, being able to influence people from geographically dispersed teams where nobody reported to me, getting them to come along and understand that this is going to make your life easier, this is going to make your life better. And then the last role was financial planning and analysis, same thing, getting people to understand implementing SAP's BPC system, business planning and consolidation, is going to give you more visibility. And this is going to make your ability to run your business, whether it's in Seoul, Korea, or Tokyo, Japan, down in Brazil, we're going to have visibility, consolidation. We're going to be collaborative work together, and just helping people reach their potential, giving feedback. I love the feedback aspect with teaching. I really look forward to the advisement, but I like to help people. So I think that's what's motivating. Learn something new and help where you can.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to ask this question of all of you. How is it, or how important is it to have a mentor to help you grow to be what it is that you want to be? Colleen, we'll start with you. How important is a mentor?
Sure. Well, I think it's massively important. I think that it's important to see representation. I think it's important to see that, you know, there is somebody else doing what you're hoping to do or be like. I think if, you know, there's somebody in the process of, you know, doing, you know, the job that you want, or, you know, the role that you want, or whatever it may be, or has a skill set that you would like to acquire, or certain traits that you would like to build upon. I think it's important to see that this exists, this is possible, and have sort of somebody walking alongside you and helping and guiding, and somebody that believes in you and your capabilities. I know if somebody believes in me, you know, I feel more confident and feel like I can do something. I've had a few along the way, some formal, some very informal. Sometimes I've identified them as my mentors and have followed, you know, their leadership. And I found myself in various mentor roles as well, again, formal and informal. And I think, you know, going back to that question you asked earlier about what motivates you, I think, you know, for me, it's the ability to set an example, and being and doing what, you know, I think are important, you know, just setting a good example for kids, for students, for colleagues, for people around me. I think mentorship, formal and informal, is incredibly important.
Right. Thank you. Ayan, to you.
Mentors are very, very important. I don't have a traditional background in tech. I come from social services, education, nonprofit, things like that. And I started off as a tech apprentice at M&T Bank. So not having a background in tech was already intimidating. And then the ZDP apprenticeship, they gave me a mentor. So that helped. And I realized the past almost 3 years is, Colleen said that informal. I feel like I have a mentor in every M&T building downtown. Mentors are very important. They see you, they advocate for you. I don't think I'd be here today if it wasn't for my mentor at all. My mentor helped me realize people, like, to be a good leader, you have to be relatable, and people are relatable. And my mentors have helped me see myself in a different light, and they have helped me push myself out of my comfort zone and become who I am. So mentors are very, very important. I think everyone should have them as well.
Awesome. Kathy?
I still have a mentor, so I'm going to tell you that at no point in your career is there a point where you shouldn't look to have a mentor? For me, it's perspective. They help you look at things from a different angle, look at situations, considering alternatives. Also for accountability, right? You're answering to somebody, for your goals and aspirations. So I look at that, and then just the guidance and advice. Sometimes you want to bounce an idea off somebody who's not in the trenches with you necessarily, and not your significant other. And I just find having the same mentor that I have had, and I call it a lifelong mentor. You get to that certain point that the person becomes more than just a person you meet with once every couple months for lunch. You want to find that person that is somebody you can go to all the time and just ask them, and their perspective is so important to you, and it gets you into the right frame of mind. So for me, that would be the value of a mentor, because sometimes you can't get out of your vision, and you need somebody else in there. And then obviously the guidance and advice is great, but again, depending on where you are in your career, at what stage, having that mentor to be there for you is invaluable.
Awesome. Sheila?
Yeah, I think they're very important too, not only for career, but also how to navigate the family. When you're a working mom, how do you manage to get everything done? And sometimes, I think was it Colleen mentioned the informal mentors? You have examples of what you don't want to be. So they weren't actually your mentor, but I would see a role model, someone else, and I would think, that's not how I want my life to be. So trying to figure out somebody that does have that work-life balance, or better work-life balance, and latching onto them to help you grow your career as well as maintain peace at home.
Right. Correct. I like the peace at home part. That's a good portion. So a home mentor, we try in the IT department to get across to our students that a mentor is very valuable, very valuable. Like Kathy said, I still have my mentor. So I graduated from SUNY Erie. One of my instructors was my mentor. She got me my job at HSBC Bank, worked at the bank for 16 years, got laid off there, took some time off, and then just as when my unemployment was about to run out, she called and said, "Hey, are you looking for a job?" And here I am now, department chair at SUNY Erie. So mentors are great. Don't think that they're there to get into your business, but they're there to, again, like all of the panelists said, to help you along the way, to help you hit certain demarcations, that you may have, certain goals that you have in life. Very good, very good. What advice would you give your younger self, Kathy? What advice would you give your younger self? You're on mute before you start talking.
Have a voice. Listen and then have a voice. Don't, when starting out, and depending on where you're at, sometimes there's an intimidation factor and it's not appropriate to speak up, or maybe your ideas matter, you matter. Speak up, have a voice, but make sure you listen first. Listen and then, speak up. But that would be for me. Believe it or not, Linda, who's known me for a very long time, I was very shy and, didn't speak up all the time. There's appropriate time. And a lot of that is how you're raised, the appropriate time to speak up. And what I found was I have something to say. So speak up and use your voice.
Colleen?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that's great, speaking up. I would also add to that a couple things. One, don't compare yourself to others. Your path is unique. Your path is unique to you. Focus on your own journey. Celebrate your accomplishments and recognize that everybody's path is unique. And I think kind of along with that is being kind to yourself. I think we lose that when we're younger. a little bit, and be kind to others too, especially girls. You know, we all remember what it's like to be a middle school girl, right? I have one. I have an 11-year-old, 6th grade. Like, she's going through it right now. And it just makes me kind of have this conversation regularly. I'm telling her what I wanted to hear when I was that age. And, you know, being giving yourself grace, you know, but also recognizing that everybody else around you is following their own path and on their own journey, and just practicing empathy and compassion and understanding in your interactions. You're never going to go wrong. You know, if you go that route, you're never going to go wrong. And then, you know, whenever you can be positive and bring positivity to the conversation and the table, instead of negativity, is always going to be a victory. And, you know, the last thing is prioritizing yourself and self-care and mental health. I think we hear that a lot as we get older as mothers, the importance of prioritizing self-care and mental health. And that was never a thing when I was younger. So I think it's important that the younger folks, you know, that's what I would have told myself. I wish I could have told myself it's important to take breaks. It's important to seek support. It's important to maintain that healthy work-life balance and figure out what that is for you. And which goes back to what Sheila said with her mentor. It's finding that. So those are things I wish somebody talked to me about.
Right. And I love the portion where you said, give yourself grace. That's, we don't do that a lot, because again, we are a lot of times we are our own worst enemy. But we have to learn how to, we give grace to everyone else. How come we can't, you know, give ourselves, you know, grace, that grace? Ayantu, what advice would you give your younger self?
Good advice. Very good advice so far. Those are all really nice. One thing I would say is advice I would give: know yourself, know who you are, what you like, what you don't like, how you react. Stress, like, the older I got, I realized stress does kill. Show yourself grace, know when to take a break. Also, with knowing who you are and what you want to do, it's very important to know yourself, because you can have 10, 15 mentors, and if you don't know who you are, you won't know how to apply any of the advice that's given to you. So no one knows you as well as you do. So take time to know who you are as an individual. Don't second guess yourself as well. That's what I would say.
Right. Sheila?
Well, aligned with what Kathy said, my words were speak up and know your worth. And with what Ayantu said, you know, developing your emotional intelligence and knowing that you can't change people, but you can change how you respond to people. So knowing that if I need to get my point across, I need to figure out how somebody else is going to hear me. And that's how I need to communicate to them. So speak up and make sure you understand your audience.
Very good. Very good. I just want to circle back. We have a question in the chat, and if anyone, one of our panelists can speak to it. Do mentors have an obligation to keep things confidential?
I would say legally no, but ethically yes.
I guess it also depends on if it's a organized mentorship through a business, because at that point there may be presentations or follow-ups that occur as part of the program, but the personal mentor becomes a friend and there's a trust, and that's where, you know, as Sheila said, ethically, you know, there's that friendship trust that's in there. But I would definitely differentiate the difference between a work program of mentorship versus a found your mentor, you know, in a personal setting, and somebody that you just trust and is your confidant.
I would echo all of that. It's situational.
It is situational. And I feel like when you meet someone, you kind of will get an idea of whether they'll keep things confidential, like how comfortable you feel with them too.
Great, great. Thank you. I hope that answered your question, Maria. So our next question, do you feel in getting to where you are now, do you feel that you've had to work harder than your male colleagues to advance your career? Sheila.
Yes.
Mhm.
um, there's just I could give I could give one example. I probably shouldn't, but I will. I was the director of financial planning and analysis at New Era, and there was no director or senior director of the North American business unit for finance. So my FP&A team, essentially, we supported this role. There came a time, and we did a fabulous job at it. There was a time that they decided they were going to add the senior director of North America for finance. So I went to the CFO and I said, I'm interested in this job. And he told me they were looking for someone a little more strong-armed, the kind of guy that Paul could take to the table. And I was just like, okay, so they hired the guy, and it was a senior director position. He never went to the table with Paul. I trained him. And after he was there 6 months or so, Paul, the vice president of North America, still came to me for support. And I was like, yeah, so I am at that point in time figured this is where I need to make my exit strategy. And I moved on. I went back to ECC for cybersecurity because I like to continuously learn too, Kathy. So yeah, I think you do have to work. You have to work harder. I think if I would have had, well, there's a reconciliation between, I think as women, we like to be perceived as nice. At least I know that I like to be perceived as nice. So there's that reconciliation that I know I need to know my worth. I know I need to speak up, but the back of your head, it's just like, well, you don't want to be, I don't want to be cutthroat. I don't want to be perceived as cutthroat. So as hard as you work, unless you're going to advocate for yourself and take those risks, take those chances, you're not going to advance.
Colleen?
Well,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I shouldn't say you're not going to, but it's going to be harder for you to advance.
You know, I fortunately haven't been in any situations or roles where it's been that way, where I've had, and I think most of it's because of I choose roles and positions and all of that, and surround myself or choose companies to work for that I know that equality is a priority. But, you know, there's definitely been situations where I've been asked to do things that I know my male counterpart would not have been asked to do, or to, you know, take on a project or be in a situation or meet with a client or something like that, that I know that like my male counterpart wasn't asked to do. So, you know, there's definitely been situations like that, but I've been pretty fortunate along the way. I also am pretty aware of it and don't put up with that type of thing very well.
Ayantu?
Yes, definitely. I do believe I've had to work hard. Not in my particular role. I work corporate America in tech at M&T Bank, and I work on a big team, 3 different applications, and I work with a handful of other women. So I'm thankful to have had that experience. But previous jobs in the past, though, before I switched over, I've like Sheila had said, I've had to advocate for myself, and me advocating myself is seen as a threat in a way. Where I learned the word intersectionality. I'm a woman. On top of being a woman, I'm Black and I'm Muslim, and I've actually had managers compare me to my white male co-workers, counterparts, like to my face. And it's like, that's not a compliment. It's a backhanded compliment. Please don't, like, I shouldn't have to have this HR conversation with a manager. Like, so I've definitely had to advocate for myself. Don't be scared. It's such a, I feel like this conversation could go on for days and days because there's so much to be said. So I was just like trying to gather my thoughts, but no, I definitely have, and advocating for yourself and not being scared to stand up for yourself plays a huge role in visibility.
Kathy, did you want to add to?
I'm just going to add, it's not so much in my experience that I felt I had to work harder. It was I had to make compromises, and I set a standard for myself that was probably higher than what somebody else may have set for themselves.
Mhm.
So in turn, it appears you're working harder or doing better, but you're setting a standard to be successful, to not be failed, to not be criticized, because the biases that are out there for women in leadership roles or women coming up. And I'm seeing this not just for women, but generationally now. We talk about like, millennials and Gen Zs, we're biased towards everything. Something comes out, and what happens is that it's that standard. What's your standard? I going back to my father was, you represent this family, so whatever you do or say, and I pass that on to my kids,
Mhm.
like, you're a representation of this family. So the standards that you set on yourself, you kind of end up working a little harder because you don't want to disappoint yourself or others. And again, it goes back to, in some cases with women, we feel validated by receiving feedback from somebody else, as opposed to feeling validated in our own worth and celebrating ourselves and looking for that, and having a young daughter, go through and seeing that sometimes she measured her success on the feedback she got from somebody else, as opposed to stand on your own 2 feet. So she is a workaholic, does do more and sets very high standards. And then we make those compromises where I'm going to work harder. And I'm just going to, quick story. I was a part of an interviewing committee for a senior leadership in a school district. And in the committee discussion, somebody said, well, I really like her, but she shows up everywhere. She doesn't know how to do a work-life balance. She works too hard. And I couldn't control my comments at that point, and basically said, you've put her in this position to work too hard, because you won't accept her in this leadership role unless she showed all of that. And now you're saying it's too much. Like, it was really disturbing to me that it had gone the other way. So that's where we're finding that balance, is very, very important. But for me, it was the standards. I just kept saying it had to be better, it had to be faster, it had to be strong, right? Just always had to be perfect, become a perfectionist. But that you got to allow yourself to make mistakes. You've got to allow yourself to not be perfect, and laugh at yourself when you don't do that. Instead, that's something that I've learned through the years also, to find that balance in there and not always be that one that's working harder. And harder needs to be smarter, not longer hours, those kind of things, which
Right.
technology gives us. Work smarter.
Right. Great, great. So we have a question from our chat from Peter, a former student here at SUNY Erie. So his question is, how you get committed to adapt to every situation that you come across, that you would interrupt your goals during your journey to be successful. So, how can we rephrase that?
How to handle.
So have your goals been interrupted? So say you have a goal for yourself. Have they been interrupted by certain situations that have come up in your life? So let's just say, Kathy, on your way to being that director of athletics, and you had certain goals in that position, did something come along that may have interrupted your goal, you getting to your goal?
Constantly. Constantly, there's going to be obstacles or things. What I've learned is embrace change. There will be change. Change doesn't derail you. Change just might refocus you or lead you down a path that maybe fate has in store for you that you didn't know about. So new boss, new supervisor, company closes, things like that you thought you were on the path. And all of a sudden, and then in many cases, it's family, having children. You make choices. These are choices you make, and you have to make sure you prioritize, have your priorities set. In my case, I took a time to raise my children, which meant I wasn't going to move on. And I never forget my athletic director asking me one day, why aren't you moving on and up? Why aren't you whatever? And I said, well, I chose to be more present in my children's life and let my husband build his career and mine will come later. And those are choices you make that you can put your head on your pillow at night and sleep with no regrets, because that I chose to be present. And that just kind of derailed that career journey. But I've been telling, as I meet with students and go into classes, live your life 3 to 5 years at a time. You know, don't plan 20 years from now, 30 years from now, because there will be paths that come in and obstacles and changes. Short-term goals, so like finish your associate's degree, then work for a couple years, and then you can change again. You are able to reinvent yourself and pick your path so many times that is actually should be exciting for you to be like, what can I do now? Where can I go now? What can I do? But there will always be obstacles, always be something, and choices that you have to make. Just make sure your priorities, you know what your priorities are, and you are your number one priority. Your family is priority, you know, those kind of things. But yeah, constantly. I had a new supervisor every 3 to 4 years, and I would have to retrain them. Like, new one comes in and I have to train them how to be my supervisor, you know, those kind of things. And it slows down progress, but at the same time, you find that balance. So I would recommend the best thing to do is embrace change and find change is a good thing.
Great, great. So another question is, what system or ideas would you create to help young generations to understand the value of mentorship as the way to climb the ladder to their success?
I'm going to take a stab at this one. That it's important to look at the value of history. So talking about history, you know, you learn from others who have lived your life. And in many cases, you know, as a parent, you'd say, you know, you would get frustrated with your kid because you're giving them advice and they're ignoring you, but you've lived it. And so it's a matter of respect for mentors and having the mentorship, that they are there to help you succeed, and their experiences and their life journey themselves are helpful for you. And that's what makes the value there, is that they're not going to necessarily stop you from experiencing the pain or being derailed from where you're going, but they will help you with the tools to deal with it, because hopefully they've experienced it themselves.
Okay, anyone else want to add anything to that one? No? Okay. Okay, thank you, Kathy. We do have another question in the chat. How important is psychology safe in the workplace, or should you just grow a thicker skin?
I'll tackle that. That's actually a really good question, and I was having a conversation about this with a coworker a couple of weeks ago. I want to say it's both. You do need thicker skin. You can't take a lot of things personally. At the same time, it's important to have people in your workplace that you feel comfortable going to. Whether if it's not your manager, then another coworker. But it's nice for your own sanity, for your own mental health. Like, I know they say don't take the job home. It's easier now to take it home. It helps to have someone that you feel comfortable just talking to. They say you can always go to HR and things like that, but my friend made a good point about how HR is there to mainly protect the company. You can go to them for anything, but a lot of people do not feel comfortable going to HR because they're there to protect the company. So it's both, have thick skin and create your own like safety net of a group of people who you can rely on.
And that might be where having a trusted confidant or mentor helps you navigate those, that area too. Knowing that you can reach out to them and say, here's the situation. Do I need to grow a thicker skin, or is this something that I should be more concerned about?
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Is you know, creating positive connections in your workplace, either, you know, directly with people you work with or some other colleagues in your area that you can relate to. Again, those informal mentors or confidants that you can chat with and commiserate with and all of that. I think that's healthy for the most part. And as far as growing a thicker skin, hopefully you have a leader that leads with empathy and that is cautious in their approach when giving feedback, that type of thing. But that's just not always going to be the way. There's going to be managers and leaders that are brash and tough. And I think that we have to find ways to not take everything personally in the workplace, because it is a job. We're there to get certain things done at the end of the day, and be effective and efficient for our employer. So, it's up to us to kind of find that balance.
Thank you. Another question in our chat. So we have a student who works at Citibank, and she's also a full-time student here at ECC. She finds herself having a hard time balancing the 6 classes and work, more now so than she did in previous semesters. So any suggestions on how to make it all work? So a lot of us on the call are moms, we teach, we have a life, outside of where we are. How do you make it all work?
When I started my MBA in 2005, it was the executive MBA at UB. So it was a 2-year program, Monday, Friday, Saturday, every other weekend, full time. I was working 50 hours a week at New Era, at least 50 hours a week. My husband coincidentally also decided to start his own business in 2005 and was working in Pennsylvania. So he wasn't at home. Our kids were 10 and 12 and in every sport you can imagine. So I used to, in order to get the work done, I used to compartmentalize school, and there was dedicated time. I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I kept telling myself it's not permanent, it's only temporary. So reminding yourself you're going to be a better person, you actually enjoy going to school. But as far as the classes, I would ask, can you, there are certain classes that definitely have more time commitment. Programming takes more time, and your English classes, if it's writing, takes more time. So can you, if you're going to need to take 6 classes, can you balance them so that you have some classes that are less time consuming with those that are going to be more time consuming? I wouldn't take 6 classes that were all programming classes or 6 that were all research classes. So finding the right mix to help alleviate the workload might be one suggestion, but also just keep reminding yourself you're going to come up better and stronger at the end, and it is only temporary.
Let me add one thing too. When you're doing that which you love, you have higher energy. So balance out what time of day you're doing those things and where your energy is its highest to do the stuff you don't necessarily want to do. So, it's the things you find a struggle in. And then the things that you love, maybe you save them for the end of the day where generally you might have less energy. You might find yourself picking up and getting that energy more because you're doing what you love. So, I do sometimes first thing in the morning when I first get into work is the stuff I hate the most, but then the rest of the day just flies because I'm doing the things, and before I know it, I put in an extra couple hours on it. Also, I recommend, I did this, raised 2 children kind of thing, was I made a lot of appointments with myself and stuck to my appointments.
Yeah, I would say 2 things with that. Certainly we call that eating the frog first, right? Like that's the first thing you do in the morning is just do this thing that you're not looking forward to and that you just need to get over with, and just, check that off your list, get it off your plate, and move forward on your day. Somebody put that in the chat too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's a book that there's some, one of the leadership or management books or something that's from, and I can't remember, consume so many of those. And time management. I mean, and I start every semester with this with my students, is having a physical planner that you can look at and write down and block schedule your day so that you can see what you have time for and what you don't have time for. Because that's important to visually see. Like, there are literally only so many hours in the day and you have to sleep for some of them. So I know. And we have to build that time in and be realistic. And we have to be able to say no to certain things. And that's a really hard thing for us to do sometimes, is say no, whether it is, your friends are begging you to hang out or whatever. Right. I can't right now. I just have to get through this semester and do this. And like you said, it's only temporary. That you're not taking 6 classes forever. It's temporary, and it's 3 or 4 months, and then you'll be past this. But if you can get yourself organized and plan out your days in these block schedules, so you can see where you have time and where you don't have time, and sort of get yourself prepared each day. I mean, I start out my day in the morning, looking at my full planner, and then I write my to-do list for what I'm going to do for the day. And it changes, and it starts one way and changes throughout the day, and we have to shift and be a little bit agile. But I think with some discipline and some time management, all things are possible, and that mindset that this is just temporary.
I am too.
Everyone touched on everything I wanted to, so that was really nice. Having good time management is really important. Saying no. One thing I want to add on to that, it doesn't seem like that important, but I would keep drinks like water, juices, and things in your car, and snacks as well. I was a full-time grad student at UB. I was getting my master's in economics and education policy analysis, and I worked full-time. I had 2 jobs at the time, so I was literally running around town. Like every second was accounted for, and it was always no, 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 no to my roommates, to my friends hanging out. Short-term sacrifice for long-term goal. Like you said, you're not doing this forever, so keep working hard, don't give up. Stay hydrated, don't forget to eat.
I love that. That's so smart.
So I do have one last question. I know our time is coming to an end. And again, before we do close, allow me to thank our panelists, thank all of you who have participated. It's not just a women's event. I see we do have some men on our line, and I appreciate all of you for being here. What I want to ask is, and it's going to be our final question that's going to take us out. And I want to ask each and every one of you, who inspired you to be a leader? Because regardless if you know it or not, you are a leader. So who inspired you to be a leader and why? I'll start with Sheila.
I thought about that, and I honestly think I was self-inspired. Growing up, and I think I might have mentioned, I don't remember having any dreams, or I was telling you earlier, I asked my sister what were my dreams, and I can't think of any. So I think because I went the non-traditional route, I actually went to work first. I found something that I actually liked. New Era put a DEC system in, and we were invoicing on the Digital Equipment Corporation computer. And I wanted to know how that worked. So I enrolled in computer programming classes at Hilbert College. So I think I just took it upon myself to figure out this is something that I like, and I like influencing people. I like mentoring people. I like to help people, and I'm not an authoritarian leader. I am definitely collaborative, but I like getting people to see a better way of doing things, and just bringing them along to develop themselves, encouraging them to learn something new. So I don't have the answer as far as who actually inspired me. I think it was just something I took upon myself, that's a direction and a route I would like to go in.
Awesome. Great. Kathy?
So I don't know when it happened, but I was in some workshop somewhere many, many years ago, and the person facilitating the workshop said, "What's your legacy going to be?" And in my mind, I kept going back to all the coaches, all the teachers I have that were memorable, that you have a chance to leave a first impression once, and that when you coach and teach, you're leaving your legacy in that person. And so what is it going to be? and where are you going to make a difference? And a lot of that, taking this job here at ECC for me, was that, what difference can I make to make things better? And I'll never forget that question was, what's your legacy going to be? Because I thought that's something you ask somebody, you know, upper 70s, 80s, like reflecting back. This was asked of me at a very young age. And that's where we talked about the impact every teacher, every coach has ever had on you. Can you remember those positives or those negatives? Because that actually sets the path. So who do you want to be? What kind of leader do you want to be? So similar to Sheila, kind of self, but that was the spark, was that.
Nice. Colleen?
So real quick, I can pretty easily point to this. There was a woman, her title was Senior Woman Administrator in the athletic department that I did a work study with in college. And I was placed with her for this work study, and it was literally life-changing because she, not only did she have this role that I didn't even know existed, her role was all about being the highest ranking female in this NCAA institutions department, and that there was meaningful representation, you know, at the school. And with a few things that I won't get into that we were dealing with at the institution at the time, that was really important. It was really important that with Title IX and female sports, that there was that representation. And I just really enjoyed what she was doing. And I enjoyed, you know, making a difference in the athletic department, helping out with some of these sports, that type of thing. And her sort of outlook on things and her attitude and positivity, and helped us through, you know, some things we were going through as student athletes. And then she helped with my career path too. I mean, she placed me with a job at Bucknell University afterwards, and the rest is kind of history. So she certainly wasn't intending on it, but she literally changed the trajectory of my life. And it's just because of who she was as an individual, and in her role in that institution. So I am all greatly and eternally appreciative of her, and I still stay in touch with her to this day.
Nice, nice. And Ion too.
The person who started me to be a leader is one of my mentors, actually, and that's why I really believe everyone should have a mentor. It's really not a bad thing at all. I'm naturally, like, I'm more quieter. I've always been the introvert. I listen more than I speak. I write more than I speak, and I've always done things behind the scene. Like, I like helping out behind the scenes. And one thing that's always intimidated me about being a leader is that leaders are always speaking, and I didn't want to always speak. But there's so much power in speaking and telling your experiences, because you'll be relatable and it adds value. Like, not everyone may see value in what you have to say, but there's someone out there that will see value in what you have to say and what you have to do. And being a leader is all about influencing others for the better.
Awesome. Again, thank you all so much. I truly appreciate you. Again, as I said earlier, thank the panelists for their yes to being a part of this. And you never know, we might be back together again one time. So again, thank you all for joining. I appreciate you, and have a great day.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.